Bitcoin's the money. Bitcoin's won as money. That's it. Like, they just stole 6 years of your life by debasing the money supply. Maybe a better option is to be able to save in something that's compounding at 55% a year, which is Bitcoin. Buy, stack, and chill, and aligning yourself with truthful money, honest money. And you've got a solid foundation to then build the skyscraper of your life, your empire, whatever that is for each individual.
Alrighty guys, welcome back to Satsventure. Today we have my boy Sean Clarke, another Aussie Bitcoiner, someone I've been looking forward to speaking to for a while. So thanks for coming on, mate, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, Joey, I've been devouring your videos over the last week. It's a real pleasure to be able to connect and dive into the conversation.
Yeah, I love talking to Aussie Bitcoiners, like talking to Zane and now talking to you, and even Finn yesterday, someone that's come from the UK over to Australia. So I like getting connected to the boys. The first sort of introduction, let the camera know who you are, what your mission is with your channel, and just a little bit what brought you to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I want to start with my mission because that's way more important than any one of us. And the mission is to give people permission to study Bitcoin, number one. And once they study Bitcoin, is to get Bitcoin in self-custody. Not an ETF, not on the exchange, but Bitcoin in self-custody where you hold the keys, like with digital IDs, CBDCs. I'm happy to dive into that conversation, being debanked twice in the last 24 hours. When you hold the keys to your Bitcoin, it's freedom money. But without that, it's just number go up, and it's sort of irrelevant. It doesn't make any sense when we've got this technology. So that's the mission. That's the purpose, is just to allow people to know that there is an option, that there is this lifeboat of hope, which is Bitcoin. Who I am Sean Clarke, host of G'day Bitcoin. I've been talking about Bitcoin exclusively, I believe, since 2021, mid-2021, got into Bitcoin 2019. And like yourself, just on a mission to be able to educate, share Bitcoin, and then also talk to the best and brightest people within Bitcoin. Because what I've found is Bitcoin attracts the smartest people, not just in relation to money, but some of the smartest people in every area of life, whether that's health, wealth, relationships, finance, etc. The amount of rabbit holes and stuff that draw these really interesting characters into the space, it's phenomenal. And to be exposed to those new ideas by people that have thought deeply about it. For myself, obviously, having the conversations, the podcast, and then to be able to share that information, that signal with people, it's a real honor, it's a real blessing, and I guess that's me in a nutshell as it relates to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I love this space. Like, I've had so many people that I thought, nah, they're not going to reply. And then suddenly they're replying, jumping on the show, getting in contact, and even having some follow-up messages or even calls. And so I think it's just such a shift from the crypto and altcoin world where everyone's just trying to pump their own bags. It's a lot of selfishness. It's a lot of hype. People are releasing courses for their own financial gain. And it's not to really teach people about XRP and all these interesting things. It really is just to pump their bags and hit the road. And so it's been interesting meeting a lot of other Bitcoiners because they all seem very similar. They're just willing to help. They're not asking for payment for coming on shows, things like that. And it's just out of generosity. And I think it's all part of this movement. We're all a collective, sort of moving together. So yeah, and I love this space and I appreciate you coming on, and it's cool meeting these people. So where did you sort of find yourself leading up to discovering Bitcoin? What did your life look like? Maybe even your saving habits before Bitcoin, and how did that shift when you first discovered it?
And so, like I was saying, 2019 got into Bitcoin, so that's the last 6 years. Go back 10 years ago, I'd gotten clean, started to get my life back together and stuff, and just realized that, like, Sean, you need to get your shit together. You'd been screwing around directly before that. I was working on the Great Barrier Reef. I worked on the Great Barrier Reef for 7 years, either as a dive master and taking people, tourists, to see just like the wonderful, remarkable Great Barrier Reef. It is, one of the 7 wonders of the world for a good reason. That was pretty special. And then I was running as the location manager at Hayman and Daydream Island up at the Wind Sundays, underwater jet skis called Seabob. Amazing. If anyone ever gets the chance to go on a Seabob tour, do it. and see if you can talk the instructor into letting them go unrestricted. 26 kilometers an hour, 40 meters deep underwater. They're pretty insane. So I was doing that, but it was just, sort of drifting around, literally out at sea. Got clean and wanted to put my life back together again. So started managing a permaculture farm. Didn't know anything about permaculture, but I had come from like quite a lot of management background ever since was sort of a late teenager onwards, in one capacity or another. So I took over that, learned about permaculture, ran this farm. We'd have like 30 to 50 people every couple of weeks, woofers coming out, teach them about permaculture or organic farming and stuff, and then building out this amazing market garden, a huge food forest and infrastructure and everything there, and started to put a little bit of infrastructure on there for accommodation, doing that. And then just like working in the 40 degree sun, or like I remember once plain as day as my birthday. I can't really remember what year, but it's just pissing down rain. And I was like this deep in red mud the whole time, sliding around with a pickaxe and trying to get the channel, the swale, so the water would flow properly and it'd hold and it wouldn't flood and stuff. Anyway, I came home and I couldn't walk up the driveway. I just collapsed at the bottom of the driveway from just pure physical exhaustion. I'd just been going all day. It was hot, it was humid, it was just soaking wet, all chafed and stuff. I'm like, I cannot be working with my body for the rest of my life like this. I need to do something. So I ended up getting another job with local government for a while, and was working in there. Started off on the roads and then just moved straight into the office, looking after the beach access, boat ramps and stuff, which was great. But I just knew if I could get into that large organization very quickly, it wouldn't take long before I could move up, and then I could go into brain work instead of body work. So I guess that happened. So I'd gone from just I was still trading time for money, but by moving up through that and then going to a knowledge work, obviously you get paid more for using your brain than you do for your body. So that started to allow us to be able to save, and we just went as hard as we possibly could to pay off the mortgage. And we got that right down there. And our plan at that stage was, if we can get rid of the mortgage, obviously that being like the biggest expense, the biggest ball and chain to the rat race, then it doesn't matter like what we could do. I could go wash dishes and that would be able to cover rent, food, rates, food, electricity, etc., like just the general expenses of life once you get rid of that overarching mortgage. And so that's sort of like the transition. Back then, that's when I started to focus on my health as well. Like I'd found myself again. So I tried the paleo diet, the Mediterranean diet, vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian. There's two other diets that I tried at that stage as well. Started to get into body weight push-ups. And then I needed to relearn to be able to communicate and to be able to interact without a smoke screen in front of my face the whole time. So that's sort of like the journey up until Bitcoin. And then after hitting Bitcoin, like everything just accelerated by like 10 to 100x very quickly, like yourself. And I think you were alluding to it earlier. When you're in the Bitcoin space, you'll start to hear about diet, like the carnivore diet I've been on since August last year, for example. Going out and sunning your nuts once a week, highly recommended. Having a good morning routine, sleep routine, etc., and then just like buy, stack, and chill, and aligning yourself with truthful money, honest money, and you've got a solid foundation to then build the skyscraper of your life, your empire, whatever that is for each individual. Everything changed in like really short order, and then just sort of wake up and you're like, oh well, like a lot can change in a very short period of time when you have passion, purpose, and focus on the right thing.
Yeah, I feel like Bitcoiners are now coming into like a package deal. It's like you go down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, suddenly you care about your health. Suddenly you're doing, more walks, more runs, more push-ups, maybe you start looking into the food and going, sheesh, like what am I eating right now? Fruit Loops for breakfast. Maybe I should eat steaks and eggs. And so it's been really cool, like joining all these Bitcoin group chats and things, because there's people even saying, hey, I'm now homeschooling my kids. And it's like all these ideas that I guess not necessarily the mainstream, but sort of just the general society goes, nah, they're crazy. What are you talking about? The carnivore diet, that's stupid. Things like that. It's really interesting where Bitcoiners are now waking up to a degree where it's just like, hey, I should suss that out. I should suss out every aspect of society, every aspect that the fiat dollar has corrupted. And so, yeah, I love hearing these things where people are going, hey, why don't you try the carnivore diet? Why don't you try this? Why don't you try that? And it's like, oh, you can just try things. You don't actually have to listen to the quote unquote professionals. You can just try something with your own body, see how you feel. And if you feel like you're improving, then maybe chase that a little bit and suss out why that is. And so could you maybe go into maybe we should backtrack a little bit, but for someone that is listening to this now, they're going, Australia seems really rich. We have natural resources, compared to a lot of the third world countries, we're doing pretty well. We're not living on the streets to a degree. I think there is a lot of homelessness now, which is coming up. But why should the average Australian not just save in the Aussie dollar and plan around the Aussie dollar, saving, retirement funds, superannuation, just plan their life around trying to save as many dollars as possible, put off the now and enjoy the later, assuming those dollars are holding their value? Could you maybe go into just the initial, what's actually wrong with the fiat system?
First off, I just want to say it's not a 5-minute conversation. We'll do our best. But ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested, read The Big Print by Lawrence Lepard. It is the best book on Bitcoin ever written, and it will talk about exactly what's wrong with the money. Take your 13.5 hours to listen to the audiobook, maybe 13 to 15 to read it yourself. Highly recommend. But in 5 minutes or less, so one thing you said is assuming that the Aussie dollar is stable in purchasing power. Well, it's not. Like over the last 5.5, 6 years since COVID, they printed 63% of the M3 money supply. So that's all the money in Australia. We had this much since inception, and then over the last, 5.5, 6 years, we've pretty much doubled it. And let's even backtrack a little bit. Like, why do we call it fiat currency? So what we're talking about is the Australian dollar. A lot of people think that is money. It's not money. Money is gold or Bitcoin. That's the money on planet Earth. Fiat currency means it's backed by decree. It's not backed by gold. Usually what it's backed by is fear of imprisonment. If you don't pay your taxes, they're going to lock you up, or they're going to confiscate your property to be able to pay that debt. So it's backed up by the gun, but that's it. When money's not backed by anything and there's a group of people, which is in Australia, the Reserve Bank of Australia and Jim Chalmers, they have access just to be able to push the money printer. When they push that button on the money printer and they make more dollars and they go out there, that money flows to the people closest to the money printer first. So you'll see a lot of politicians, people like that, they'll get really rich with stocks. They'll either front run it or with house and things like that. It'll push all the asset prices up, and then the money will trickle down to the economy. There's more money chasing less and less goods. House prices, food, electricity, energy, every single thing goes up. So why should you not use that system or plan your life around that system? We're losing about 7 to 11% year over year, and that compounds if you're saving in the Australian dollar. It's the same with any fiat currency around the world. Some higher rates of inflation, less rates of inflation. They try target 2 to 3% in Australia. The real rate at the moment is sort of like 12 to 15% on the downside, and it depends what you're actually measuring it. And if you're as stakes, I think they're like 15% more expensive in fiat dollars than they were a year ago. For example, people's electricity, just have a look at your energy bill. If we continue to save in money that can be printed at will and base our financial decisions off something that is not verifiable and it's not based on math, it's just based on trust Jim Chalmers or whoever's in charge of the RBA at that present time, all we can do is trust that they're going to continue to do what they've done, which is debase it, make more and more money. And to be able to save that, if you put a $100 bill under your mattress this year, you pull it out next year, it still looks like a $100 bill. It's, here's some funny money. You leave it there for a year, it still says $100, but you wake up next year and you've lost 10%. So now it's buying $90 worth of stuff. Leave it for another 5-10 years. Now it's buying $50 worth of stuff. Leave it for a little bit longer and it's gone away. So like, why should we want to save in something that by design is doing what it's doing? All fiat currencies go to their intrinsic value, which is not worth the paper they're printed on. That's how they end up. I guess, sure, that's why I'd say you wouldn't align yourself with the Australian dollar or things that are, we can go into stocks and stuff. The reason like the stock market's at all-time highs or houses are at all-time highs, it's not that the house is worth anymore. It just simply isn't. Like our house is 30 years old. It's beautiful, nice ocean views. It's incredible. It's gone up 2.5, 3x since we've bought it. The amount of maintenance that needs to be done. I was just saying that we had insurance issues in the ceiling. We're finally getting that fixed today. Side of the house needs to be sanded, repainted again. The gutters and stuff need to be cleaned out, whatever it is. Like there's a whole lot of maintenance, but we could get more fiat dollars for that to be able to do it. So everyone feels like they're getting richer when they're pricing their life in fiat, but it's not actually the case. The only reason everything's getting more expensive is because the dollar's not getting, is becoming worth less and less and less. And then like when you switch that over to Bitcoin, because it is infinitely scarce, 21 million Bitcoin will ever be created. And then I don't know how many we've lost. Nobody really knows, but say like 3 to 5 million thereabouts. We're already at the most amount of Bitcoin that are ever going to be floating about there that are spendable as it is now. Over time, more and more people are going to lose Bitcoin, but there's going to be more and more money units of fiat units, currency, going out, chasing the most pristine, finite monetary asset that's ever existed. So that's going to keep going up in price. The difference with a house going up in price or Bitcoin going up in price is Bitcoin is 100% scarcity. It's not like a house, like, yes, they take a little bit of time to make more of them, or gold. It takes resources, energy to be able to get more out of the ground, but you can still do it. And the higher the dollar value goes, the fiat dollar value goes, the more inclination there is to bring more supply out. It doesn't matter how high Bitcoin goes, when it's $1 million, 10 million, or I heard you say you expect Bitcoin to be at $100 million. I expect that too, right? One day when we're pricing fiat this lifetime, maybe not. Are we even measuring the world in fiat dollars at that point? Probably not. It's going to be Bitcoin. But you simply can't make any more of it. So your purchasing power is going to far outpace anything else that you could possibly save your time and energy. And I guess that's the most important thing on all of this is when we go to work or we provide a service or we run a company or whatever, like what are we doing? We're trading our life force, our energy, our time for something of value, which is a fiat currency, this funny money that they give to us, that they just continue to debase over and over. So basically they're stealing our life from us. In Australia, if you'd save for like the last 10 years, going back 6 years, and you'd saved for 10 years, they just stole 6 years of your life by debasing the money supply. When you're saving in something outside the system that the system can't manipulate, then over time, your time is compounding that energy and you'll have more time in the future.
I think a lot of young people are now seeing that houses, for example, are skyrocketing, and they don't really understand why. They don't understand that they're printing so much capital, and sort of houses have become the biggest money magnet in Australia, and so they just go up faster than everything else. Something that I saw that was interesting was this new 5% deposit coming into Australia, because it would go cha-ching, cha-ching for so many young people. They'd go, I was trying to save $100,000 or whatever it was, depending on the house value, and now I can just save half that. This is going to be so easy. Could you maybe share your opinion to younger people in my age where it's, hey, this is actually a little bit of a red flag rather than, hey, cha-ching, let's go for it. Maybe the risk associated with that and how Bitcoin could maybe be an alternative to getting ahead.
Yeah, just YOLO into $1 million house with a $50,000 deposit. It's crazy because the average house price in Australia is about $1 million. So at the moment, you need about 100,000 for a deposit. They've cut that down to 5%. Well, that comes out tomorrow, doesn't it? I think the 1st of October, or like this month anyway, coming up. Probably by the time this video is released. The reason why that's such a bad idea is the barrier to entry has been cut in half. So there would have been a couple of people saving and they're getting close to that $100,000 deposit. It's cut down in half. So it's opened up for more people are now able to go in there and buy a house. Like we were saying earlier, the houses aren't finitely scarce. They can make more and more of it, but the supply builds slowly. But when they open this up, at a drop of a hat, 50% more people are eligible. For example, just loose math. So now there's like twice as many potential people in the market or that can enter the market to be able to chase the same number of houses that are there. So what's going to happen? The house price is going to go up to then cut out some of those people and make it higher. So maybe now they need a $75,000 deposit to be able to do it. The only thing, potentially the people that do it like really quickly, that are ready to go right now, good to go in fiat terms, maybe they're going to be better because then everyone else after them is going to push the house price up more and more and more. They're going to have more capital appreciation within their house. For some of those people, it might work out well. They can refinance their house, pull out equity out of the house, and they could go into a second property if they're so inclined. Go into Bitcoin, probably a smarter option. Whatever. But it will work out, sort of like the Cantillon affair. Those closest to the money printer or those who act the quickest are going to win in that game. For everyone else, the house price is just going to get more and more expensive. And then what happens? In 5 or 10 years, do we need to cut it down to 2%? It just becomes out of control. So, like, what is a better option? People are always going to want to live somewhere, to own their own home. I think like once you go deep down the Bitcoin rabbit hole and you understand where Bitcoin's going, you're like, I'm just happy to rent. But some people, my wife included, she's like, I want my own home. I want to know this is my space. We can do whatever, paint the walls, put in a dog door or whatever. I'm like, let's just get a rental. We'll buy a door from Bunnings. We'll take off their door. We'll cut in the dog door. We'll put up the Bunnings door while we're renting that. And then when we stop renting, we'll just put their door back. No, we can't do that. Or what if I want a garden or something? I'm like, fuck. Anyway, so some people are like so attached and they want that place to live. So like you get a house and it's nice. You can have your own studio, whatever it is, whatever you want to do, your hobby room. So I get it. But what's a smarter option for somebody entering into the market? Not financial advice, ladies and gentlemen. Read the big print. Do your own research. But maybe a better option is to be able to save in something that's compounding at 50, 55% a year, which is Bitcoin. So if someone had that $50,000 and they're ready to be able to buy a house, maybe wait 4 years and move all of that capital into Bitcoin, and in 4 years' time, say you have $200,000 or $300,000 deposit, you could sell half of it, or you could loan against it. I don't recommend loans or anything. I think that's stupid, and I don't think that's not stupid. I take that back. I think it's for the right person who understands the market, and that's been here for a very long time. After 4 years, is that person you or not? Like that's up to you. If you want to loan against your Bitcoin, you do you. I wouldn't recommend it. I think probably just better to be able to say pay the capital gains. But now you've got a $150,000 deposit to be able to put towards that house over the next 4 years. Yes, it'll go up a little bit, but it's not going up as much as Bitcoin. And then you've got less of a mortgage to be able to pay. And like two things with only having a 5% deposit compared to say like a 15% deposit or a 30% deposit. Like the higher the deposit, the better. Is where the banks really make their money is on interest. So say it's 950,000. I'm just going to round up to $1 million for easy numbers. But say you owe the bank $1 million, you're going to pay another $1 million in interest, but you're paying your mortgage with after-tax dollars. So how much money do you need to earn to be able to pay for a $1 million house? About $3.5 million. That's a long time trapped in the system. And yes, wages and stuff are going up, but the average wage in Australia, it's not 120,000 a year, but say it was $100,000. It's a little bit below that. That's 35 years to be able to pay that mortgage off. That's a long time being shackled. Whereas if you were to put the 50,000 originally into Bitcoin, it's compounding. Say you get to 300,000, you take 150,000 out, pay your capital gains, and then you've got 125,000, put it on a deposit. You let the rest of your Bitcoin grow for the next 5 to 10 years after that. By that time, probably still save and stack in Bitcoin. You should, in my opinion, always be saving in Bitcoin. I've been doing it every 2 weeks for the last 6 years minimum. I think that's just the right way to do it. It's just better money. But say you do that, at the end of say 15 years or whatever, you've got enough to pay off your entire house. You're in a house that you want in 4 years from now, and you've still got a little bit of Bitcoin left over that's going to continue to keep growing. And there's other obviously creative ways, and mortgages and stuff are going to get interesting with loaning against Bitcoin and stuff. And I guess the reason why I said loaning against Bitcoin is stupid, because at the moment it is. It's like a 12% interest rate where you can get 4 to 6% from the bank in fiat dollars. So you're giving up control of the best collateral in the world that's going to cost you twice as much to be able to repay back, with the hopes maybe you use your Bitcoin to be able to pay it back. No, just wait, let the market come to us. We should be paying 0.5% or 1% max if you're going to be loaning against Bitcoin, because if anything goes wrong, they can instantly liquidate it. There's no counterparty risk for them. You're taking all the risk by handing over your keys to some centralized institution.
I think this housing bubble to me is ready to pop. But even if it doesn't, it has the aspect of all these people that are wanting to buy houses as a store of value. As they shift to Bitcoin, even with how much money they're printing, the only way this bubble could not continue is those prices come down because people are leaving the market into Bitcoin. So I just love the idea that Bitcoin can potentially bring prices down from other quote unquote stores of value like houses, even against the money printer. So I'm not sure what that looks like, and we can throw up predictions and things. But I love the idea that Bitcoin could have the ability to bring house prices down while Bitcoin's purchasing power goes up. And so if you're holding Bitcoin for a longer period of time, I imagine in a world where I don't want to trade my fiat dollars, someone with a really nice scarce property, bit of land, whatever, a nice spot comes to me and it's like, I really need your Bitcoin. I've got these acres of land. Can we make a deal? That's the world where I picture 10, 15 years, maybe even sooner, where it's people are so desperate to get a piece of my scarce Bitcoin, and I can give them, say, 10%. Maybe it's not all my Bitcoin, it's 10% or it's 20% of my stack, but they give me this really nice property as a trade. So I'm not sure what's realistic, but do you see a world where when we move away from fiat dollars, people are coming to Bitcoiners and desperate for their Bitcoin, where it's they're almost willing to give up anything?
100%. Just 2 secs. I'll just grab a book out of the bookshelf. There's 2 books. That's a highly recommended read, and we can sort of talk about why I brought this one up. But good friend Seb Bunny, The Hidden Cost of Money, highly recommend. Canadian bloke. Daz B, which is another Australian, and Seb Bunny co-authored Beers for Bitcoin. Seb went on to that. He talks about, especially real estate. He lives in Canada, and he talks about how he's seeing that and everyone uses a store of value. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody has any idea what the price of Bitcoin will be in the future, especially when you put a pin in it with the time zone. But hypothetically, let's just say in the next 5 years, Bitcoin's around $1 million US, which would be about 1.7, 1.5 million Australian dollars, and then say in 10 years at about $10 million for one Bitcoin. And that's where I believe it'll be. Thereabouts, give or take 20% either side, whatever. Could be higher, it could be lower. I don't really care. The point is, just for this example, it's going to be a lot higher than what it is now, in my opinion. If we take that hypothetical finance bro math and run with it, let's say $10 million in 10 years, and we're about $115,000 today. Let's say 100,000 for easy numbers. That means 0.1 Bitcoin's $10,000, 0.2 Bitcoin is $20,000. If you can get to 0.2 Bitcoin today, hold on to it for 10 years, Bitcoin is at $10 million. You've now got $2 million that cost you $20,000. Do you not think that you're going to be able to buy a really nice property, house for that? Like even in inflated dollars time? Maybe Bitcoin's not at that price. What's that mean? Well, you just need a little bit more Bitcoin. Maybe you need 0.3 or you need 0.5, what, $30,000 to $50,000 to be able to get a $2 million property? Sounds like a good deal to me. Even if it's half as good as that, and you put in $50,000 in 10 years, you can only buy a $1 million property, still going to be better off than what you would have been not saving in Bitcoin. So yes, I do think over time, as more and more people wake up to Bitcoin, like we need to remember, it feels like it's so expensive because it's at all-time highs, 115,000 and hit 124, but the market cap's 2 point something trillion dollars. Whereas gold's over $20 trillion. Bitcoin's coming for gold. That's a 10x from where we are now. But then there's $900 trillion of things that are deemed as store of values out there, whether that's stocks, bonds, government bonds, real estate, cash in the bank, everything. Half of that $900 trillion, so $450 trillion, eventually over time is going to flow into Bitcoin as well. There's a lot of upside in front of us, but people approach Bitcoin that's so expensive. Yes, compared to where it was, but compared to where it's going, no, not at all. And can we pick the time frame, and do we know when it's going to be? Like, for example, last cycle in 2020, 2021, everyone was saying like Bitcoin was going to go to $100,000. It only got to 69,000. It took us until 2025 to get to 100,000. Like, okay, in a couple more years, like who really cares? It's just like a little bit more time. And what's that mean? Say you needed $100,000 back in 2021. Well, you just need more Bitcoin. You know, instead of one Bitcoin at 69,000, you need 1.2 or 1.3, whatever, to be able to get to the 100,000. So that's the way I approach it, Joey. It's just always the answer is more Bitcoin. Like, it's super simple, but that's how I try to stick to the signal is just buy, stack, and chill. Like, just get as much Bitcoin in self-custody as possible. And we've still got fiat. They work well. Like, spend the crappy money first, save in the hardest form of money, and get as much of it behind you as possible. And then let time play out. And while time's playing out, I think that's like, I won't stick on this too much, but I think that's why Bitcoin is getting to health and everything like that, is they realize, oh, like, I want to be here for a long time. I want to be able to enjoy my Bitcoin. I want to be able to enjoy life. To be able to enjoy that, like, I need my health in a couple of years' time. So I'm going to focus on that, or I'm going to focus on the information that I feed my mind or whatever, so I don't get distracted and psyop and misled and, you know, and go down the wrong path, so that I do stay laser focused until that moment in time happens.
Yeah, I was listening to Jack Mollers today, and like someone commented saying their argument for why Ethereum's going to pass Bitcoin and this whole rabbit hole of what's superior cryptocurrency. And his response was something similar to what you just said, with a little bit of context with Ethereum. But he was saying Bitcoin's competing for that 900 trillion, but if you halve it, $450 trillion of this value and money that's trying to find a store of value. So like art, for example, he was talking about a $10 million art piece. People don't just hang on the wall. They have that in, you know, some storage locker, some safe, potentially even guarded by people, like full-time security. And so he was just saying it can eat into all asset classes, and because it can act as a store of value in a competitive way to any other asset, it's competing for 450 trillion, whereas Ethereum's competing with other technologies. Like it's competing with Apple and Amazon and Nvidia and things. And so how big can you see Ethereum? Like I think there's a cap with Ethereum, whereas Bitcoin, to me, there is no cap. It's competing for the wealth of the world, whereas Ethereum has to reach a peak. And are you going to tell me that Ethereum's as popular as Apple? I would say no. Is every single person going to be using the Ethereum network other than just a speculative gamble? I would say no. And so that whole argument of, oh, do you see it passing in market cap? I just go, no. Like in market cap, Bitcoin
They're
has
flipping,
no.
bro.
Yeah, it's just like Bitcoin has no cap in my eyes, whereas Ethereum, I'm like, you think it's going to pass Apple? Like, good luck. I don't know anyone that really uses Ethereum network other than to gamble and speculate. And so that's just, yeah, I find it crazy. Like Bitcoin is going to suck capital out of all assets, and it's just a matter of time. You really can't predict these things, but it's setting it up. The setup is there for it to just go, oh, I'll take capital from you, I'll take capital from you. And so even if these things continue to go up, Bitcoin will just be drawing them down to a degree and sucking it all in. So I still see a world where gold continues to grow. I don't think it necessarily has to go down in market cap for Bitcoin to be successful. But I just see where people go gold or Bitcoin. Oh, I'm actually going to go Bitcoin this time. And as the old money comes to younger people aren't going to want to invest in the shiny rock. They're going to be going, what's the next store of value? What's the superior store of value? What's something that's actually a capped supply?
Also, Joey, like what's usable? I can't send you gold. You could hold up your phone right now and I could send you sats instantly. Like we live in a digital age. We're just past that. And just to double click on your Ethereum point of view, because a lot of new people do get distracted. I got distracted, and that's why I spent a little while in crypto. And it's all a psyop, and there's a couple of reasons for it. Bitcoin doesn't have a marketing department. It's people where it's changed their own lives and it's made a profound impact. They just care so much and they want to share. That's why Joey's here. That's why I'm here. That's why all the influencers, the people that write Medium articles, write the books or whatever, it comes from passion. When you come back to crypto in general, they're centralized. Even if they say they're decentralized, they're not. They've got somebody behind them. Usually they issue themselves tokens first and then they sell it onto the market. Even if they do a fair launch, all that stuff, there's still somebody in charge with a marketing budget. They put all that information down. Because Bitcoin has been so successful and Bitcoin is money, they want to grab hold of Bitcoin and ride its coattails up, because a rising tide lifts all ships. That's what they're hoping for. So they want to confuse everyone out there and like drive this narrative that Ethereum's going to be the new Bitcoin because it's faster, cheaper, you can do more, you can hold JPEGs, monkey butt pictures, whatever it is that you want to on all these chains. You can do everything with Bitcoin so much more. It doesn't have all the restrictions, whatever it is, but it's just narrative driven. But they're not money. Bitcoin's the money. Bitcoin's won as money. That's it. Like 21 million. That's it. You don't need to trust. You can verify. The other ones at best are a tech play. They've got nothing to do with money. And that's the difference. And I find it so insidious that they try to get hold of Bitcoin or grab hold of Bitcoin and be like, we're the new Bitcoin, we're going to flip Bitcoin, or we're like Bitcoin, but we're faster, cheaper, whatever it is, whatever lies, nonsense they want to sell you to be able to trick people. But if people can just be like, oh, I may speculate in Ethereum, but not because it's money, just because it may be the new tech play. At least that's a more honest way to approach it. Whereas I'm going to invest in Bitcoin because it's going to flip Bitcoin. I'm going to invest in Ethereum because it's going to flip Bitcoin. Like, that's delusional thinking, and somebody's implanted that false belief. And I think that's one of the saddest things. Like, when you come into Bitcoin, you can finally, you don't need to trust, you can verify, and it is all just based on mathematics and code. Then you don't need to be manipulated like we are from the mainstream media, for example. You don't need to trust anymore. You can verify for yourself. With these other ones, you can't do that. And I think that's sort of like fear's destroyed a lot of the world and what is good, and made the world really hard for many people, especially over the last 5 years with extraordinary money printing, to then look for a second option, be so close to Bitcoin, but you think Bitcoin's too expensive because it's the most expensive it's ever been, not seeing where it's going to go. But these other things, their market cap's smaller, their dollar value's smaller. So you think, oh, this will be the next Bitcoin. That's not going to help you because your Bitcoin's not in self-custody. That's all that matters, and that's all that's going to matter at the end of the day.
I read a book by Dominic Frisby. I think it's called Bitcoin. I'll get it up here. The Future of Money. And so he published that book early 2015. And he was talking about Ethereum because Ethereum, I think, started 2013 and it was founded. So it really is just another technology coming through. It wasn't released and discovered, whereas that's sort of how we see Bitcoin. But they were talking about in that book, the CEO, Vitalik or whatever this gimp his name is, and he was a Bitcoin maxi initially. He thought Bitcoin was so interesting. He loved Bitcoin. He was an advocate for it. But it's not that he thought I could compete with Bitcoin's store of value or being a money or potentially sucking up the capital of the world. He thought I can get a marketing team behind Ethereum and potentially pump my own bags on the back of Bitcoin. Like he understood I'm not going to be able to rediscover the wheel in some sense, but I might be able to, you know, what you said, as Bitcoin goes up, people sell Bitcoin into Ethereum, whatever. And that seemed to have played out till now, I would say. So a lot of people would go, oh, Ethereum's the next Bitcoin. And he would love when people would say that because that's sort of what he's tried to push. But I think even now, deep down, he's thinking Ethereum's never going to be a Bitcoin. But look, he's been so successful trying to push that narrative. And so part of me believes he would even have a significant part of Bitcoin. But there's just so much hype and so many narratives, and it's just like I went down that whole rabbit hole. I even mucked around with NFTs, and the idea now to trade my time and energy for some picture online, and I didn't even know who created it, didn't understand if there was an artist behind it. It was unique, like who knows, it's probably AI generated, and I was willing to spend, like I spent a significant part of an Ethereum to get it. And I'm just thinking, man, like where was my mentality at? Like that's something I would never do now. Like I would just be like, that's just degenerate. Like to try and put value on a picture like that because it has a unique 1-for-1 serial. It's just like, that was the biggest scam ever. So
yeah,
that's something I wish I steered clear of. But it at the end of the day, it did lead me to Bitcoin. And so I'm sort of grateful for the journey anyway. I've got no regrets, but it is something as people sort of navigate crypto, they'll learn, hey, Bitcoin is separate to crypto. Bitcoin's separate to crypto. They're not in the same boat. And so, yeah, I don't know if that's something you wanted to go into, but I think what I find interesting is this saying now where a lot of people, you come for the gains for Bitcoin and you stay for the revolution. Could you maybe go into what that slogan is sort of about and what that experience was like for you in particular?
100% I can. Before we dive into stay for the gains, come for the revolution, last cycle for everyone, that altcoin narrative worked to an extent where Bitcoin would pump and that money would rotate into the higher cap altcoins and they'd like shuffle down like into the really degenerate, and that's where you'd see like the 100 to 1,000x as like wild, hectic time, you know. And so the altcoin companies that are still here now, because that played out in the past, they're talking about it now. The influencers on X and stuff, they're like, altcoin season is here. No, it's not. That's over. That was last cycle. Some people are going to get extremely lucky and you're going to hear about them. It's like survivor bias. You'll hear about the one person that made 100 or 1,000x. But for that to be the common person, it ain't going to happen, simply because those degenerate people within retail have now gone on to the Bitcoin treasury companies. That's the game that those people are playing. It's not the altcoins anymore. So, you know, like I went through it, you went through it, and yes, it is sort of a rite of passage. I profited from it, and my biggest regret is I wasted so much of my life force, my time in there. The money wasn't worth it because it is all misinformation, disinformation. You're filling your head with propaganda with somebody's marketing message. Fuck that. Like, fuck that. I want freedom, man. So stay for the gains. Come for the gains, stay for the revolution. What's that mean? Gains is number go up. Like Bitcoin is number go up technology. Over time, TikTok, next block, it just goes up and to the right. There's no denying that. That's what it's done for its entire history. And roughly for every 3 green years, there's 1 down year. That's an opportunity to be able to buy even more sats. But after a while of being here, and I think maybe it's a little bit unpopular to be able to say, but once you hit a certain figure in fiat net worth, and even like the consistent drops and it doesn't drop below that anymore, it just stays above this figure that you're pretty happy with, you're like, okay, like sort of the price is fucking boring to me now. Like up, down, or sideways, don't watch it. Like, I don't know if it was for 2.5 years, every single day, I'll just find a blank page in my journal. Every single day at the top of the page, I'd write like my dollar figure in that I had within crypto and Bitcoin, the percentage gain up or down, and then like what it had done over the last week, the last month, and then over the last year as I got to those time frames. And during COVID, it dropped like 50% in 3 days. You're like, whoa, this is crazy. But then like when I'd even gone back just a short period of time, like, oh, there's other dips and that came straight back. Or I'd only gone to Bitcoin in 2019, crypto in 2019, or like look at the chart and like, oh, there's been other big significant drawdowns. And there's this meme that goes around all the time, like it's just 36% down, 36% down, 36% down. But like if you were to draw a line, the chart's still going up. I think like once you go through that so many times and your dollar figure or your fiat number, especially early, stays above a certain level where you feel like, oh, I've got a little bit of runway. Maybe I've got 6 months, 12 months, a year, 10 years of life in front of me, as long as it stays above that I can live and I don't need to work. Or where I can still make my own choices, I'm good. I think that's coming for the gains, but then once you hit that and your gains are at a certain point, then it's coming for the revolution. What is the revolution of Bitcoin? Some people say it's the separation of money from state, and I'm 100% for it. Like we're talking about fiat currency here in Australia, it's everywhere. It's just manipulated. They're stealing people's time, their life force, their energy. That's fucking sick. That's disgusting. We work so hard. We give our most precious commodity for something that they can just inflate, debase, steal from us. So that's one thing. And then the other revolution, well, we can see because that the money is so manipulated and inherently it is unfair, we can opt out of that system. We can use the better money, and that better money will incentivize good people to do good things, or people that are bad can no longer do that thing without putting in a significant amount of work. You can't just push a button and get Bitcoin. You have to actively work for it and get it. And so then, like earlier, what we were talking about, the price of everything coming down when priced in Bitcoin, because Bitcoin's going to suck up everything else that's being used as a store of value. Why wouldn't you want to push this revolution so much? House prices are through the roof. They're absolutely insane. The more people saving in Bitcoin, using Bitcoin, transacting in Bitcoin, the less those houses are going to be used as a store of value. They can just be used for their intrinsic purpose. Things like gold and stuff may still go up in fiat dollars, like over time with inflation. But it's going to drop more and more to its utility value, whatever that may be, with inflation. So everything's going to get cheaper, more affordable for people. And then I guess the third thing is, after a while paying attention to Bitcoin, your money is now good, your wealth is sort of sorted, your mindset's right, like I'm doing this for ethical reasons, fix the money, fix the world, it's going to make the world a better place for everyone. Then like your relationships and everything else thrive, because now you have the time to be able to do what you want. You also have the capacity to be able to say what you want. Like, you know, I was saying that in the last 24 hours, I've been shut out of my bank account twice for trying to buy Bitcoin. It's not the first time it's happened. It won't be the last time. And now I just laugh and I give them all the information that they need. So they'll unlock my account, they'll process, they will send that fiat to the exchange, because I know once it hits the exchange, I hit buy, I put it into self-custody, and then it's fuck you, you know, to the banks. When you then have that fuck you money, and obviously I'm still trying to get fiat out of the system, but when you have that money and somebody doesn't like what you say, or your boss says, hey, you can't do that, you can just say, you watch your mouth. I'm not coming in tomorrow. Like, see ya, goodbye. Like, what do you mean? I'm fucking done. Like, I'm out of here. I don't support this anymore. I'm gone. It allows you to take agency back over your life again. And I think that's pretty powerful. Like, this culture where we're in, like cancel culture and stuff, I don't believe that we should be inciting violence or hate speech or demoralizing minorities or anything like that. Like, I think that is fucked up and you're a pathetic human being, whoever does that. But when we've weaponized words to an extent where you can destroy somebody's livelihood because you simply don't agree with what they're saying, or what happened to Charlie, didn't agree with everything I said or align with a lot of it, but whether he is on the left or the right, like, who gives a fuck? Here's a guy with words and he got taken out. He was deleted for his words. I think that comes down to a broken money system. Whereas when we can opt out more and more, and more people opt out and they choose what works best for them and how they want to live, and they can surround themselves within that community, I think that's how we get to a better place, and where we don't feel so afraid or wary or so cautious with every single little thing that we need to do. Like, if we have to overthink every single thing that we might say that could potentially offend people, like, yes, do our best, have as much integrity as possible, don't go out of your way to be a prick to people, but occasionally you'll just say something that, the sky is red and like clearly it's blue, and you get into an whatever, like, it's then becomes not so serious, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just, that whole thing sort of rattled me in that sense. But I think this is a chance for people to continue to have conversations, to continue sharing their thoughts and having these discussions. Because, if you start taking the voice out of those things and people's genuine expressions, the world gets pretty messy. And so, sort of to jump onto the next topic, I wanted to talk a little bit why Bitcoin can instill confidence to take more risks. So maybe that's a business risk. Maybe that's temporarily taking a break from work to pursue something you actually want to chase and not just working the 9 to 5. How can Bitcoin allow you to have that foundation to lean on to take those risks? And what does that look like for you personally?
Like, it does definitely come down to the number go up, I think. If we're measuring like life and time to be able to buy back that time, the more dollar units or purchasing units behind us that we have, it certainly makes it easier. And so I think if someone can say saving Bitcoin for 4 solid years, week in, week out, day in, day out, like AMRAP, you can do daily DCA if you want to, for example, but just like buying on a consistent basis, getting up some savings, and then with time, obviously, Bitcoin goes up as well. So it's worth more than the fiat currency that you put into it. So instead of maybe having 6 months worth of savings in 4 years' time, maybe you've got 1 or 2 years of savings behind you, because you've also learned how to take self-custody of Bitcoin. With great power comes great responsibility. Not that it's hard to self-custody Bitcoin, but it is new, and there are certain steps that you have to get right. And if you fuck up any of those, like, you lose your Bitcoin. Like, it's game over, start again from the start. But if you methodically go through that process of saving in Bitcoin, taking into self-custody, taking the responsibility on your shoulders, wearing that burden for yourself, your friends, your family unit, I think that shapes you as a person. You've probably already started to change your mindset to be more aligned with base reality truth, of not trusting everything, like verifying before you're saying, like, carnivore diet. Maybe I just tried. So, like, for me, I interviewed the world carnivore expert. He also happens to be a Bitcoiner, Dr. Sean Baker. I read his book, and then I just tried it for myself. I'm like, I'll give it 3 months. If I don't like it, I'll stop. 13, 14 months later, like, here we are. But you're like willing to like do these little tests throughout that journey. You've been saving, you've got a little bit more purchasing power, your mindset's good. You're probably getting into the gym or push-ups or whatever. You're a little bit more healthy, and when you're a little bit more healthy or a little bit more physically fit, especially as men, you've got more testosterone. As that goes up, you're a little bit more confident within yourself. You're going to be able to stand straight. You're going to be able to look people in the eye. You're going to be able to talk with conviction. And because you've done all the hard shit of putting Bitcoin in self-custody, of dealing with the banks that keep canceling your bank accounts, getting on the phone, here's all the information that you need, pricks. Let's go. Like, let's get the money into Bitcoin, or let's get the fiat into the currency. Once you've gone through like all those trials and tribulations, I think it leads to a level of confidence where you're just like, if I keep doing what I've always done, I'm going to get what I've always got. So now's the time. I've got the runway. I've got 6, 12, maybe 24 months worth of savings behind me. I don't want to draw down on it, but if I have to, it's there. All right, do I have the confidence within myself to be able to back myself? Not that I'm going to know everything, but maybe over the last 4 years, have I been stacking skills? Like, one of the greatest skills that anyone can stack right now is using ChatGPT 2 to 4 hours a day, learning to be able to prompt with it, to be able to get the information you need back, to be able to build a website, to be able to code, to be able to build whatever it is. You can get a lot of that information for one thing. And so you're like, all right, I'm going to take a chance. You've probably looked at it a little bit more methodically than what you would have previously before finding Bitcoin, because everything's about don't trust, verify. You're like, I think this is a good idea. It looks like there's demands there. This is good for the world. It's I want to be able to provide the service. I'm going to be able to back it. Got the time, energy, and I've got the skills, maybe not to be able to do this thing specifically, but if I have a roadblock come up, like if my website goes down or something, I can talk to AI and ChatGPT, and because I built the website, I know like what things are this. So like, hey, is it this that's caused this issue, or is it this, or where else should I be looking? And then you can quickly resolve those things. You can go through a faster iteration process to continue to be able to fail forward and to be able to escalate. I think that's one way that Bitcoin sort of changes that mindset around backing yourself. And I don't think, like, if you're just getting into Bitcoin today and you've got a job that you enjoy enough, maybe the best option is just to stick it out for 2, 3, 4 years and just save as much as possible to be able to buy your time back in the future. But don't just go there and just stack sats and do nothing. Like, you have to be able to stack skills along the way and learn these processes to be able to build your confidence, to be able to build your body, to be able to build your mind. But that just naturally happens as you dive down the rabbit hole of Bitcoin.
For me personally, like, I'm still in my accumulation phase. So like, I work for my dad and I've just been stacking sats as hard as I can. And I think that's something I'll continue to do for the next 2, 3, if not 4 years before I start going, hey, maybe I leave dad's business and go chase this because I've got this Bitcoin stack. And so it's just interesting though, because Bitcoin's really changed my frame of mind when it comes to long-term plans and long-term saving goals, because it's given me the confidence to potentially chase something outside of my dad's business or my predictable future, I could say. So like, I could stay at my dad's business for potentially the rest of my life if it continues, quite a successful business, and just cruise along in life. But you know, maybe there's a passion, or maybe it's even YouTube to a degree. And I think Bitcoin gives me the confidence, maybe it's not now, but to actually try something new. Chase something that I'm actually passionate about. And so it is just interesting for young people that are stacking sats now and being extremely optimistic for the future, a hope for a financial future to a degree, and it really changes your confidence in the future. And so what is maybe some message you can give to Gen Zs, for people that are in their 20s, maybe even going to their 30s, just young people in general? Maybe it's Bitcoin stacking, or maybe it's just life advice, but what's a message you could leave before we head out here?
Number one, read the books, read the bugs, ladies and gentlemen. Truly, like, listen or read the big print. If you haven't read it, I don't know how to encourage you enough. That one book will change your life. It may change, you know, many people's lives around you. I just, like, if that's the one takeaway, read the books, read the bugs, and then also just continue to study Bitcoin and realize that you're not going to get rich overnight, but it's also going to stop you getting poor overnight. Altcoins, if you need to go down that path, it is a distraction, but like, we do need to learn. We need to learn from lessons. They don't necessarily need to be our own lessons, but they need to be from somebody else's mistakes. If you need to go down there, do it, but just don't risk too much. You know, risking 0% of your Bitcoin bag would be better. anything more than 5% is degenerate, but you do you. And just do as much good in the world. It's a beautiful planet. There's beautiful people out there. There's a lot of people struggling, like homelessness, addiction, everything like that, mental health crisis, the cost of living crisis. It's hard out there for a lot of people. You don't need to be able to go out and give them money, but you can give them time, or you can just be a kind person. You can do something nice for someone. So that's my biggest takeaway at the end of every video. Do something nice for yourself today and do something nice for somebody else out there.
Awesome, mate. Well, where can people find you before we head out? It's been an awesome episode, and I've really enjoyed this conversation.
Yep. If you're in Australia and you've got a traditional super fund and you want to find out how to buy Bitcoin in a self-managed super fund, g'daybitcoin.com. You'll find that information up there. There's some other resources and links on G'day Bitcoin. I've tried to make it easy for people to be able to just get the signal, keep it simple, stick to the signal, and then obviously G'day Bitcoin on YouTube. In the YouTube videos, you'll find the link to my X as well. Joey might put them below as well. I put out Signal on YouTube and on the website. On X, I'm there to have a whole lot of fun with the Bitcoin boys and girls and just shitpost all day. So if you do come across me on X, I'm not as serious. Just one thing I'd like to say, if you haven't already subscribed to Joey, hit the subscribe button. This dude's doing some good stuff and he's doing you a favor. He's not getting paid for this. And you buying Bitcoin does not benefit his life in any way. Like the smallest thing you could do is just push that subscribe button and put a smile on this legend's face. Thanks for having me on, Joey.
Bloody legend, mate. We'll talk again soon. Appreciate it. See ya.
Cheers, brother.